That's the sound of going live.
We're live. Okay.
Yeah. Let me pull up the YouTube I have to pull up the YouTube. Make sure that we're silent on there so we don't have weird feedback. And then I'll send the link to my students.
So wait, all this is on YouTube right now?
Yeah, we're on YouTube. It's just a little awkward when we start the video because I'm not a paid YouTube vlogger. I'm just a person who is trying to educate my students.
Yay, education!
Yay. So Jacky, what type of tea do you have? You said that you don't have your like special mugs today because you're at your parents' and not at your apartment.
Yeah, so today is Earl Grey.
Earl Grey, nice.
That I never mixed.
Nice. Oh, we've got some hellos from students. Two of mine are saying hello right now to you.
Hi, students.
Hello. Okay, let me do this participant thing. So for people who don't know who this is, which I guess would be everyone, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You may have heard stories, I don't know.
You've heard stories about her because I've always talked about my best friend from college and her winding journey and everything and how she's a successful lawyer. So this is my friend Jacky Hellreich, and she lives down. So hey, Andy. Hey, Jacky. This is Andy. Andy.
Hi.
Morning. Hi, Jacky.
I was just telling the students who she is. I said she's my best friend from college. We were actually freshman year roommates. And then we lived in an apartment together, junior and senior year together. So
awesome.
Jacky, Jacky. Yeah, she's taking time out of her busy law life to be with us, which is great. And she's drinking Earl Grey tea today.
Yes. It's very weird to say like busy life when I'm at my parents' house, but it is busy even though I'm working from home.
Well, Jacky's been at her parents' house since, like I don't know, what, March, beginning of March?
Yeah, before they officially shut everything down. I coughed once, panicked, and went to my parents' house. And then like the next day they shut everything down. So I was safe with my parents.
Yes, because Jacky lives in New York City normally, so her family lives close by, so it was a easy way to be, together but still isolated.
Yeah.
I've got my Jesus Christ Superstar mug.
I saw that. I'm very excited for that.
That's awesome.
What's the buzz?
I actually didn't have a fun mug. I don't even know where my mug went. I had some screaming babies this morning, so.
It's okay. That's life. You're a dad, so there's bound to be screaming babies. Mm-hmm. We have people watching, but there's still a few more joining with us. So I'm just going to ask you how your week's been going so far.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, it's going okay. Doing a lot of work. When I'm not working, I'm baking typically.
Okay.
Christina knows this, but no one else does. My mom works in a hospital. So I bake to stress relief and then I give it to the hospital. So they've been eating a lot of cookies lately. And I'm going to attempt bread this weekend. I don't know how that's going to work.
Okay.
So yeah, trying to keep sane through baked goods and doing a lot of puzzles. The one I'm doing right now, I did the border, except I have another piece that doesn't seem to go anywhere and I'm very confused. So, we all have all these problems we need to solve.
Some are jigsaw puzzles.
Yeah.
Others world hunger, Yeah. Oh, my students so does that mean that lawyers don't count as an essential job during this pandemic?
Sort of. So some lawyers probably do count as essential in terms of criminal law, but that's most courts are on hold right now. But a lot of us have the capabilities of working from home, which is what we are doing. So my entire office is remote. I know most of them in the city, and at least in my industry, are remote as well. So for us, it's like business like normal, because everything we do is typically you can do on your laptop, besides doing court appearances, but we're doing a lot of those via Zoom like this, or by phone. I know the Supreme Court is now doing oral arguments by phone. So
yeah, I heard that. That was crazy. My student who asked that, she said she's doing a research project on people in essential businesses. So that's why she was asking.
oh yeah, I wouldn't consider us, anywhere close to the people who are really putting their lives at stake to help us keep going. But we just have the capabilities of working from home. Some law firms don't. We do.
Yeah, I think there are some, even like with criminal cases, I think some of them have been moving to like digital proceedings.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Because I also saw something about like a judge telling lawyers to like, please do not wear pajamas to our digital court.
Yeah. There's been some really strange outfit choices, some wearing no outfits. Yeah, those are always fun. There are a few law blogs out there. We basically have our own versions of law gossip mags. So we get a lot of those when you need to laugh. There's a court case going on right now about a dog park, so that's been going around for a long time because they're interviewing the dogs in the interviews. So yeah, nice. So that's so even lawyers have humor sometimes.
Sometimes. So Jacky, I think we can get started on like a little bit of your background. So tell us about, well, first of all, what type of law do you practice? You don't have to name where you work, but just like a little bit of like what you do, and then we'll go back to like your origin story, like if you were a superhero.
So I sound like a superhero.
Yeah.
You remember a professor in college called me a supervillain, which was fun.
Yes.
So I currently work, I do intellectual property law, which is actually intellectual property litigation, which is a lot of big words. So we do patents, copyright, and trademark mostly, and litigation just means trials. So fun fact that I didn't know about lawyers is very few lawyers go to court ever. So litigation are the lawyers who do go to court. So we have a couple of trials going on right now that we're working on. So basically when people sue each other over copyright or patents, that's what I do. My practice is actually a little bit unique. We do a lot of the other side as well. So we do transactions, people selling their patents, buying companies that have patents. We do a lot of that stuff as well. So I kind of have a bit of the best of both worlds in terms of litigation versus transactional, which is typically the first question law students have to decide what they want to do.
Oh yeah, if you want to like be the one who's negotiating contracts or being the one who defends the contracts, essentially. Yeah. That is nice that you get to do both.
Yeah, no, and that was a big selling point was, I get to kind of play around both areas to see what I really enjoy.
Okay. So tell us your origin story. How'd you get here?
Well, I was bit by a spider. No, so I'm I'm currently there. I'm from Long Island, Long Island, New York, pretty far out actually. I tell people from the city that I'm far out Long Island, and they go, oh, and they give me a point in place, and I'm like, no, let's keep going an hour, and then you'll get to me.
Like the middle of the island, right?
Yeah, but no one ever thinks about it as the middle.
Like if you look at the middle, I don't know, for people who have not been to Long Island, which is like all of our students.
Yeah, you're not missing much. It's okay. Especially now that it's snowing. So then I went to SUNY Geneseo where I met Christina. And I was actually a biology major. Didn't really like it, but I didn't know what I really wanted to do. So I stuck with it. And then after I graduated, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So one of my hobbies throughout my entire life was I was involved in theater. I did a lot of background work. I did tech, sound, light, stage managing. I don't act. Don't ask me to act, please. So I worked for that for about a year. And in the middle of that, I decided to try law school. So I started studying for the LSAT, which is the test you take. Like it's basically the SATs it's actually the law standardized ability test. And by the following year, I was in law school.
So I always knew you were sort of drawn to law based on some of your interests, but can you tell our audience, like, why, how did you sort of like settle on law when you were like, maybe I'll do this?
Yeah. So I have a bit of advantage. I'm actually a third generation lawyer. My grandfather was a lawyer and my father is a lawyer. So I always had a little bit of the background. I always tell people in interviews, all of our fights I used to have with my older sister were resolved via trial. There's a famous story about how I cross-examined my teddy bear because we had a fight and we had to solve it. So it's kind of always there in the background. I wrote a petition in middle school because they banned water bottles. But it never occurred to me until after college that maybe I should go into law. And it was actually when I was working in theater, issues kept coming up a lot, especially for young actors. Their contracts were very odd. People gave me things to sign that I was reading on, and I just said, no, I'm not signing away my entire life for an unpaid internship. And it just got me interested in looking into it. So I started researching, I started reading. And the more I did, the more friends were just like, oh, what's your opinion? And I would always like, well, I'm not a lawyer. But then after a while, I was like, well, maybe I should be, because I'm helping these people and I enjoy helping people. That's kind of why I wanted to do biology in the first place. I was doing cancer research. And then it started just to make sense for me that one of the things I hate most in life is bullies. And law is a way to defend people from bullies, from people who pretend they have all this authority. And they really don't, because there's rules in place to make sure that we're all on an even playing field. And that's what I sort of enjoyed. So once I started to get into it and come to the conclusion, it just kind of made sense for me.
Thank you. And do you have any thoughts that you want to share?
I think what a great way to put the field of law that, you're defending people against bullies. I think lawyers get a bad rap most of the time, and when you put it that way, like, you're nice little angels.
Yeah, no.
Defending
the bad rap is deserved, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. No, but I love it. I love it, and I especially like how, you have some very personal experience about wanting to help people and not really knowing how that looks when you're young. But figuring it out as you go along and things start, doors open to you and you start to realize that, yeah, this maybe is my path. And that you can really look at that perspective in law, that you are working for the greater good. You're not just beating your head against the wall over criminals that can't keep their hands off, a bunch of marijuana or something, or can't keep from getting speeding tickets, or I think that's really cool. Thanks for that perspective.
Yeah, no. And even though the kind of law I'm in right now is not necessarily in that field, I'm doing a lot of patents and stuff. Christina knows this. I do a lot of pro bono work as well. It's one of my passions. And I just got someone citizen status, which I'm very excited about. And I'm helping someone keep their house. So even when you do something, totally out field, there's always a chance to get back, which is something that's very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
For my students who don't know what pro bono work is, that's essentially like volunteering your lawyer services. So you don't get paid for it. So Jacky volunteers her time by using her specialized skill set in law to be able to help people who may not be able to afford a lawyer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I remember you were telling me that you were helping someone with like an immigration case. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, it was very exciting. I just helped out. There's a few of them I'm working on. I'm helping out with their immigration status, trying to get them visas. And yeah, no, it's not an area of law I know very well, but I'm learning it rapidly. And there's nothing more satisfying than helping somebody.
And you started to do it in college while like you were in law school, because you mentioned that you were doing, I think maybe I'm like misremembering the timeline, but doing pro bono work for people who were like trying to get restraining orders or orders of protection.
Yeah. So actually, fun fact, to be a lawyer, you have to do at least 50 hours of pro bono work while you're in law school.
Okay.
So law schools tend to have a lot of opportunities. So one of the things I did was I joined a program where we took training, and then we were in the family courthouse. And when people came in looking for restraining orders from domestic abuse, domestic violence, the forms are very confusing, and the whole process is very scary. And the people come there by themselves. So we are there we help them write all the forms. We stand in front of the judge with them. We give them the whole process to help protect them. So that was one of the pro bonos I did in college. Not college, in law school. And then I wanted to try something different. So I ended up working through an organization that essentially is basically the public defender. So I was doing the appeals for the public defender. So people who had lost their cases and were trying to appeal it. So I was working on those as well.
Awesome. So law school, how did you choose the one that you went to? I mean, I know how you did, but one usually pick which law school that they go to if they want to go to law school. And how long is law school and what's it like?
Okay. So one of the tricks to picking a law school that I've heard from a lot of people is, unless you're going to Harvard or Yale, go to a law school where you want to be, because that's where you make all your connections. So for me, I'm staying in New York. So I applied exclusively to New York schools. And then after that, I visited each one that I got into. And I did the same thing for when I picked a college. I looked at the people mostly and said, do I see potential friends in these people? Because that's the most important thing, is if you don't like the people you're with, you're not going to have a good experience. So when I was in Brooklyn, I felt like I should probably say I went to Brooklyn Law School. When I was there, I just felt like I fit in. Like, I looked around and people were normal, people were smiling, people were sharing and laughing in the library. And to me, that's really important. And that's one of the great things about Brooklyn, that's known for Brooklyn, is that it's a very welcoming community. Everyone's very kind and helpful. There's our stories that some law schools are very cutthroat. Brooklyn wasn't like that. If you were out for a day, you would maybe one text message before 7 people sent you their notes. So that was very important. I was very happy with my law school experience. Everyone was great. Law school is 3 years long. It is a doctorate. As I always joke around, most doctorates are 4 years. Law school is 3 because we're the lawyers, we make the laws. And law school is very different from college or high school or any other school because it's taught by a Socratic method, which means the professors don't do much standard teaching. What they do is they give you an assigned reading for the day and say, okay, we're going to cover these 50 pages. And then they'll just go around and ask people randomly questions. And that's kind of how you learn, which is very difficult for someone who's not used to that. And it's very scary the first time you get called on in the middle of nowhere when you're just, trying to blend into the crowd. But I found it really helpful because it really teaches you to prepare yourself and to learn yourself. The best thing you learn in law school is how do you learn, which you would think you would learn in college, but I didn't. So I learned visually. So my outlines were graphs and pictures, and I won an award in a class, and my entire outline for that class was clip art. And that's just how I learn. So it's a very different process, and it's very self-study and self-dependent. So you really need really good self-discipline because there's only one test. So you go the whole semester, you go to class, you take notes, and no one checks on them. There's no homework, there's no midterm. And then 4 months later, you sit and you take a final and you just write everything you've learned. And that's what law school is. So you have to pace yourself and learn how you study to make sure that you're not overwhelmed at the end.
Right. And like what you were saying about how your personal method of studying differs from other students, we talk about this a lot when some of our students are like, I don't know how to study for this class, or I don't know how to study, my friends are doing this method. And it's like, you do what's best for you and what works for you. So you made graphs. I had a friend in high school who she would rewrite her notes, like literally. She would take her notebook and another notebook and then rewrite everything.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was time efficient, but it helped her, learn the material, and she got good grades on the tests and everything. So
Yeah, no, it really. So for an example is the bar exam, which is the huge scary test that you take after you graduate law school to become a lawyer. You sit, well, I don't know. We have no idea what's going on right now. But I sat in the Javits Center with 5,000 people, and we just took a test for 2 days straight. So there's, classes you take, there's programs, there's companies built around making you study for this test. And it just wasn't clicking for me, and I was panicking. Christina probably heard me cry 4 times. And then I just kind of, a couple weeks before the test, I sat down, I was like, this is not how I study. I don't study by doing practice questions. I don't study by just rereading the material. So I think I spent 4 days straight just sitting at my laptop making my graphs of all the information. And I passed. I'm a lawyer now. And not only did I passed with flying colors. It wasn't even close. So and before that, I was barely passing the practice test. So for me, it was just like, I don't study this way. I don't learn this way. I have to do what I do. And that was probably the best thing I ever did, was just sit down and be like, no, this is not working for me. I know what works for me, and I trust that.
yeah, that's great. With the bar exam, something that students may not know is that if you want to be a lawyer in New York State, you have to take the New York State bar. But if you want to move to a different state, you have to take their bar exam. So you have to do the test wherever you want to practice. So that's why you said, like, I picked a place where I knew I wanted to be. Like, you wanted to stay in New York State, so you'd be able to practice in New York State and just take that bar exam. But for folks who, like, maybe they want to, like, move to California, but they, went to law school in Illinois, like, you have to take multiple bar tests depending on, like, where you are at the start of your profession. So
that's sort of true.
Sort of true.
Yeah. So New York now is actually part of the multi-state exam. So
okay.
Yeah. So the New York bar exam is the same. I think it's like 20 states. But
that's nice.
California is a great example. New Jersey is another example. States that are very close. They take different bars. So if I wanted to practice in California, I would have to take the California bar exam, which, fun fact, is one of the top 5 hardest tests in the world. Jersey, I have to take another test, but I know I can, like, if I wanted to go to DC right now, because I've taken the test within 3 years, I could just apply and they'll take my, there's like different scores you need to get to apply for each state. But California definitely needs to take another test. New Jersey needs to take another test. And the test is only good for 3 years. So for example, my father, who took the bar exam 35 years ago, he would have to take the bar exam again if he moved to another state. So no one's got time for that. And he was having, he drove me to the LSAT, the test to get into law school, and he was sweating. And I was like, this is not for you. You're not taking a test.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's crazy. Education never ends.
So. Yes, no, it really doesn't, especially, like, I know a lot of professions do the same thing. You're required to take continuing education credits. So I'm constantly, I have to take classes the rest of my career in order to stay a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Well, which is helpful, because then you stay on top of, the current laws, you stay on top of what is, happening in the world around you. If you really want to be, like, at the top of your field, or at least, be good in your field and competent, you want to be able to know what's been happening. Like, I'd say that all of us on staff, we are always, like, reading what's happening, or connecting with other higher education professionals to be like, well, what's new in that field? Because if we want to advise you as students, we have to make sure that our information is up to date.
Yeah. And some of it's, I'm such a nerd. I went to some of these continuing education classes while I was still in law school, which is totally not necessary. But some of them are just, thinking like, oh, I have to study for the rest of my life. That's not true. I went to a few just because I thought they were interesting. Like I said, I have a theater background, so I went to a continuing education class that was about the legal side of theater, and they did it in a theater. So that was just fun. The coolest one I did, I actually had to beg them to let me in because I wasn't a lawyer yet, And they did was, I was the legal side of comic books, and it took place at New York Comic Con. So I went to Comic Con in a suit with an X-Men t-shirt and I was like, is this the right thing to wear? It was. Everyone was wearing a suit with like a Batman tie. And there was a bunch of lawyers sitting in a conference room at Comic Con talking about the law. And it's probably the nerdiest thing I've ever done, but it was so much fun.
Yeah, see, there you go. You can combine your professional interests and your hobbies together.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's always a way to combine what you love and what you do. And because there's just so many different facets of it.
Yeah. I know I have a question, but I want to make sure, Andy, do you have any other questions right now?
Yeah, sort of. So, Jacky, I guess when we advise students on that express interest in maybe law down the road in their career, of course, our students are in high school, and so it's tough to know just where life is going to take you. Our advice is generally to pursue in an undergrad degree what you love, and keep your mind open about the different scopes of law that you can pursue. I think it's very easy to get closed-minded about what law is and what lawyers do, because what's immediately around us are criminal attorneys and lawyers that do family court and set up mortgage or process mortgages and home deeds, property deeds, things like that. But there's a huge realm. So I guess that's our advice, is generally to pursue an undergrad, something you absolutely love, and then constantly think about how you're going to be able to turn that into law. Would you add anything to that advice?
Not necessarily add, but kind of just reaffirm. The cool thing about law school, and this is not true of some other professions, but there is no major requirement. You don't have to be a poli-sci major to go into law. I was a biology major. I know English majors. I know communication majors. I do know poli-sci majors. I had someone who did sports management. And then he got his master's in sports management, and now he's in law, and he was interning. I actually don't know where he is. I should call him. But he did internships with the NFL. He did internships with the NHL in their legal departments because he had that background to show, and they were like, oh, you're in law school and you also know this other stuff. So it's really beneficial for you to kind of broaden your horizons. One of the clubs I was in college, because I thought it was fun, I was the general manager of the college TV station. And because of that, my first summer, you typically intern in between your semesters of law school. So there is no summer break anymore, sorry. So between my first and second year of law school, I actually interned at CBS, like Channel 2. And I was mostly in their newsroom, kind of working on making sure the things they were saying were legal, making sure there's no liability, no one wants to be sued. There was a whole day I watched commercials to make sure they were okay. So that was fun. I went through news stories with people. I was backstage on some of their TV programs, which was fun just to watch. But that was just because of club I was in, and it made me different from everyone else, and it showed that I was interested in this from the beginning. So I definitely agree that do something you love, and the rest will follow.
Good advice, especially we talk about like getting involved in college and different activities. You can see how, a potentially unrelated activity helped secure an internship for you.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, which I remember visiting you in New York City that year, and like you came walking from CBS, their headquarters, and we met at a park, and I was like, wow.
Yeah. Every now and then I walk past the building, and I was like, I was there. And I still, don't believe it half the time. That I did some of the things that I did, because I'm like, who am I? But it made sense and it fit, and then I got the opportunity and I just ran with it.
Good. This is not my question I was going to ask. I will remember it soon. But in the meanwhile, what are some areas of law that one can practice? So we talked about criminal law a little bit. We talked about intellectual property. If you can just give us like a few other names of other types of law and maybe like what you do in it, or not you, but what one would
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
So I'll kind of do like an overread. So there's basically two major branches of law, which is criminal law and civil law. Civil law is non-state action. So, I mean, not necessarily. It's basically when people sue other people or companies sue other people. It has nothing to do with the criminal court. And that breaks down into transactional and litigation, which is what I explained earlier. Transactional people, which is actually 80% of lawyers, do deals and arguing, and they work for companies. And they work on negotiations and contracts and compliance, which is just making sure that everything everyone's doing is okay. Just reviewing things and making sure that they're up to date on all the laws, because laws are constantly changing. That's a whole big facet. And it's really anything you can possibly put your mind to. The example I can give is anytime you see a warning sign on anything, a lawyer put that there. So, some of these weird, like, why would anyone ever, try to eat a lamp? Someone did, and there was a lawsuit, and now there's a warning. But I have friends who are in environmental law. I have friends who are in family law. I have friends who are doing products liability, friends who work for the government, friends who work for the state. Pretty much anything you can possibly imagine, there is a lawyer involved. I'm a big musical fan. Christina knows this. Someone told me, you're always in the room where it happens. Anytime there's ever a decision made, there's always a lawyer just sitting there making sure it's okay. So really anything you like at all. Sports, there are tons of lawyers in sport law. One of our professors was the general counsel for the NFL. Making sure all the contracts are okay, making sure everyone's safe. Literally anything you can think of, there is a lawyer there. It might be the paperwork. Lawyers are best described as people who do homework all day. Like you have a mortgage is like a 50,000 page document. You don't want to read that. Lawyers do. We love reading that stuff.
Do you though?
Sometimes it's fun. Actually, I kind of enjoy it sometimes. But
that's why I'm not in law.
Yeah, it's you have to like to read is basically, no matter what area of law you're in, you have to like to read. And you have to like to be excited about reading. Like there's always you hear a law story about lawyers arguing for days over where to put the comma. Because that makes a huge difference in the sentence structure, which changes how you read the sentence. And it's a whole big thing. But the also fun part is lawyers don't really speak English. So, where thou art to is a word. So it's, so as long as you like to read, you can kind of find yourself in any area that you want, because everyone needs a lawyer at some point. Whether you not want to think about it, but we're always kind of hiding in the background going, good job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jacky, a follow-up on that. It's funny, Christine and I were probably in each other's heads. But the question I wanted to ask you is there any particular track of law that is more desirable or easier to get a job in, or are there areas that maybe are less lucrative, you maybe to stay away from, that you're going to be kind of a struggling lawyer? I know you always see like the public defender on TV. Public defender is always the guy who's in like the Goodwill suit, and his friends are all like really successful corporate lawyers making hundreds of thousands of dollars. So explain that to us.
So pretty much how this works out is they say the median salary for a lawyer starting out of law school is, I think, $80,000 a year. That's not true. When you start out, you're going to be making average around 40 to 60,000 a year. The lower end being the public jobs. Particularly public defenders don't make that much money. The people who do legal aid and really what I would do as pro bono work and they do as their career, those tend to make less. My dad just said that his job starts at 90. They tend to make less, but that doesn't mean they're easy to get. It's actually very difficult to be a public defender in New York City. People wait for years and years and are constantly denying for being a public defender because it's so desirable because you're doing so much good. On the other end of the spectrum, it's also very difficult to get what we call big law jobs. Those make a lot of money, like a lot of money, but they're very difficult to get. Depending what school you go to, if you go to Harvard, it's better odds. For my school, you couldn't get an interview with them unless you were in like the top 10, 20%. I happen to work for a big law firm. So big law basically is the top 100 firms in the country or world. A lot of them are located in major cities. That's not necessarily what everyone wants. And that's kind of, if you've seen the show Suits, they're kind of big law. But there are so many jobs in between. You're not going to be making multiple $100,000 a year right out, most lawyers. But there are some areas that make less. The laws that you really help people, this is horrible to say, but if you're doing a lot of work, if you're doing a lot of work for people who really need it, they may not be able to pay. So those are less lucrative, but you feel better in your soul. So they say like immigration law doesn't make a ton of money. That's true, but you're helping people's lives. So it kind of depends on that. Corporate law, tends to be a little more lucrative, but that's not always true. Right now we're in a pandemic that, they're not doing all that much right now. So it really depends on the circumstance and what you kind of want to do. I wouldn't consider, you can always get by as a lawyer, always. I shouldn't say that. Most of the time you can get by as a lawyer. But it really, once you figure out what you want to do, you'll be fulfilled based on what you want to do.
Right. My students have, they've asked me about like education, and I'm like, I don't really get paid that much. You get enough to like have a nice lifestyle, but it just depends on like what your values are and like what you are looking for, and what you need to pay off those student loans. Like how are you going to do that? So it's really dependent on like your personal journey.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Like I said, like I'm working in big law now, but I'm doing a ton of pro bono. So for me, I want to keep doing that stuff and helping people and doing what I can, but I'm also, taking care of myself.
Yeah, which is perfectly reasonable and doable. So, hey, baby. Jacky, you don't have a human baby, but where's your fur baby?
Oh, I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm actually kind of worried that you said that now because I haven't heard from her in a while.
Yeah, she was running upstairs in circles.
Oh, she's right here. Sorry, we're gonna move.
Yeah.
Welcome to my house. She just took a bath, so I'm really sorry.
She's cute. So yeah, there's Muffin.
Muffin is an English sheepdog. She just got a bath, so she came right before this meeting. She came charging down the stairs and tried to eat me because she doesn't like that.
Tell her what your family did for her first birthday. I think it's hilarious.
Oh, so I live in the suburbs of Long Island, so not near any farms. So we drove an hour and a half to find a farm, and the lady let her run around with a sheep for an hour until she passed out. And we did that for her first couple birthdays. So I have footage of my, very domestic, lazy sheepdog chasing sheep like it's her business.
Mm-hmm. So cute. I'm glad you shared the dog. I know our students love like seeing the pets. So
she's usually in most of my conference calls, but like sitting on my feet so no one sees her. And I was like talking about law and legal stuff, and like I'm petting my dog at the same time. So like right now I just got soaked because she just shook.
We're probably gonna wrap up in a few minutes. Andy, do you have any like last minute burning questions?
No, I don't think so. Just my appreciation to you, Jacky. This has been very informative. I think you offer some really awesome perspectives in law that personally I hadn't ever really considered. So
Thank you. And for all the students who are listening, if law is something you want to consider, or if you have any just general questions about my crazy, weird journey, which Christina's probably told you stories about, because I feel like I've started careers 4 times already, and I'm 27. I'm always open to questions, fully support all of you guys and what you guys are doing as well.
Thank you. And what's some general advice that you have for high school students while we're waiting for some last minute questions maybe from our audience?
I was just saying the other day that high school seems like yesterday, but it was 9 years ago. For high school is, relaxed. It feels like everything is crazy. It is, but it's okay. We're all in the same boat. And just try your best, really, in everything, with your friends, with your schoolwork, with your family. As long as you keep commitment and doing what you're doing, you're going to do well and you're going to succeed. We just have to put your mind to it, really. And, college was great. I had a great time. I had a great roommate. So, which we clearly still talk to each other after living with each other for 3 years. So.
Pretty awesome. You guys lucked out. You're probably more the norm than the horror cases you hear.
We had some friends with some horror cases, but they were doable. They lived their lives. They moved on. Well-adjusted people, so you learn how to manage conflict. And it's funny because I think even when we moved in with our other friends, we also tried to set not a contract per se, but we tried to set up some what we expected of each other. Did it ever work? There's always going to be a fight about dishes.
Always going to be a fight about dishes. You're always going to it's the same thing with relationships and Netflix, especially now when everyone's at home. You're always going to be mad when someone has class when you have another episode of the Netflix to watch. So, which I think we did a lot of shows like American Horror Story where one of us had to go to class and I was like, well, what are we going to watch? So.
Yeah, season 1 and season 2, that's what we watched. So
yeah.
Okay, let's see. I don't think there's any other questions. We waited for the students to answer, and some of them get a little shy in the morning or sleep.
That's fair. That's very fair.
I really do appreciate you being here and, telling us so much about law school and your law career so far. I think it's a useful perspective and, it's helpful. Thank you for offering to continuing to talk to our students if they need to.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Okay. Well, just a reminder to our students who are still watching, we have Letchworth advising at 11 a.m. and then we have Alexander advising at 2 p.m. So make sure to go onto Zoom and talk with us so we can catch up with you. If you can't go on Zoom, email us, etc. And then tomorrow is Fun Friday for Tea at 10, and we have past advisors coming to visit on Zoom. So you definitely want to watch. All right.
I may be watching.
Sounds good. All right. I'm going to wave and end the video. Goodbye.
Jackie, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet all you students too who I don't